All right, people. We're back out here with this Jeep, and this is kind of a shorter episode of The Idiot Mechanic. So, what I've got going on is this twin stick on this Dana 20 transfer case has been popping out of the rear end has been popping out. Of course, you got your, let's talk about this. The rear, high, low, and neutral, and the front, high, low, and neutral. So, I've noticed, I've had it happen a few times. It's popped out of high range into neutral, as well as low range into neutral. So the way this works is there are a couple shift rails here that do the business for the shifting. This is the rear end of the transfer case. That's neutral, that's high range, that's low range. And these holes, this one here that's open, and this here they're supposed to be plugged from the factory, but someone's put some pretty big, like probably 5/8 bolts, whatever they are, down in here to plug them off. And what these holes are for is when you're tearing down the transfer case, you can pull your shift rails out, and then the detent spring and detent balls live down in those holes to keep your shifters located. So, and what happens over time, especially when you go to a twin stick, these came from the factory with a single stick that wears out pretty commonly and gives problems. So the twin stick gives you that ability to have control over each axle a little bit more. Anyway, we don't need to talk about that. But what happens is that spring and detent ball, they get loose and they don't retain the gear well, and then you end up popping out of gear and can cause some damage over time, wear out your transfer case gears. So what I've done is, this is the plug. What's going on here? Focusing. This is the plug from the rear wheel side, and I went and hollered her out with a, what size bit was it? I can't remember. Anyway, a fairly, decent. This focusing is not going to work. So anyway, hollered her out a bit there and created a secondary detent pin. This camera is just terrible. Out of the same size an old bit that I had worn out. And then I found a very, very stiff spring from some motorcycle spring. It's very, very stiff. So you can see that. Hopefully you can see that. That I can simply drop down in to that hollered bolt, and then I drop my detent pin in there. So, and then this was stuff that the previous owner had put into this transfer case to block that stuff off. But there are, I don't know if you can see that kind of ridge on that open shift deal. There is existing detent notches in that shaft. The shaft is stainless, so this is where it got tricky, but you can kind of see that divot right there in the middle. I center punched it, and then I drilled it. Kind of, because it's stainless. You can't drill stainless good. So I did the same there. Put a divot and drilled it, in which that business end of my detent chingus, my DIY supplementary detent chingus, fits right in there. And so this is what we got. You got to be careful putting it in because you'll drop the innards out. But as long as the innards slide in and you get this thing started. So they do sell kits for this to adjust, or not adjust, but stiffen up the detent balls. But you got to basically pull either the transfer case out, or you got to take the guts out of the transfer case, and you do that from the bottom. It's just easier to take it out, but I don't think that is something that I want to do. And the last resort is obviously putting a bungee cord to hold the gear in where it's supposed to be. But we don't want to do that either. So I came up with this idea here. And this is somewhat adjustable because that other backup nut down there on the bottom can be lifted and lowered to get your tension just right. So, but what I had done was I used the digital caliper to drop the little blade down in there and check the maximum depth based on the surface height of the transfer case, and then as that shaft moves, the detent kind of notches go away, and I measured the depth to the top of the shaft so I could get my bolt clearance as tight as possible, so we would have a good detent engagement. So now, I mean, it still works great. I could probably go a hair deeper, but what you're going to see here is I don't have any extra movement, and I don't think that this is going to pop out of gear. And if it does, then I'll just have to sort out that issue when it happens. But so that's my kind of DIY adjustable supplementary detent system for the Dana 20 transfer case on an old Jeep. So pretty happy about that. And as you can see, the tip of the detent system seems to be engaging the little dimpled areas that I intend it to. And if you look really close, which I don't know that you can, you'll kind of see that dimple, and then you'll see a slide mark, a line right there. That's where this little dowel chingus I made slides in and out. So that's pretty cool. First gear, we're in neutral. That's high range. It's very firm. That's low range. Pretty firm. High range again. And now the front's in high. We're in high range, 4-wheel drive. Neutral front. Neutral rear. Still in gear there. We got nothing. There we go. All right, well, that's done. Should be good now. Shouldn't pop out of gear. Like I said, if it does, I'll figure it out. While I was in there, I heated those twin sticks and bent them over, gave them a little S-curve so it brought them closer to the transmission shifter, because when you're all buckled in with the harness, it's hard to reach those, and I got long arms. So anyway, that's what I've done here. So now I'm going to run it around and shift through the gears and make sure everything's shifting. So you've been tuned into The Idiot Mechanic. Thanks for watching.